a WikiVidi Documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Halloween franchise. Halloween is an American horror franchise that consists of 11 films, novels, comic books, merchandise, and a video game. The franchise primarily focuses on serial killer Michael Myers, who was committed to a sanitarium as a child for the murder of his sister, Judith Myers. 15 years later, he escapes to stalk and kill the people of the fictional town of Haddonfield, Illinois, while being chased by his former psychiatrist, Dr. Sam Loomis. Michael's killings occur on the holiday of Halloween, on which all of the films primarily take place. The original Halloween, released in 1978, was written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, and directed by Carpenter. The film is known to have inspired a long line of slasher films. 7 sequels have since followed. Michael Myers is the antagonist in all of the films except Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the story of which has no direct connection to any other film in the series. In 2007, writer-director Rob Zombie made a remake of the 1978 film. A direct sequel to the 2007 remake was released 2 years later. The films collectively grossed over $366 million at the box office worldwide. The film series is ranked 4th at the United States box office in adjusted $2008 when compared to other American horror series. Overview. The original Halloween, co-written and directed by John Carpenter, tells the story of Michael Myers as he stalks and kills teenage babysitters on Halloween night. The film begins with 6-year-old Michael killing his older sister Judith on Halloween night 1963 in the fictional town of Haddonfield, Illinois. He is subsequently hospitalized at Warren County's Smith's Grove Sanitarium. 15 years later, Michael escapes from Smith's Grove and returns to his hometown, where he stalks Laurie Strode and her friends as they babysit. The film ends with Michael being shot 6 times by his psychiatrist, Sam Loomis. Halloween 2 picks up where the events of Halloween left off. Michael's body is missing from the front lawn, where he fell when Loomis shot him. Michael follows Laurie to the local hospital, killing everyone who gets between him and Laurie. The story reveals that Laurie is actually Michael's sister. She was given up for adoption as an infant. Michael corners Loomis and Laurie in an operating room, where Loomis causes an explosion as Laurie escapes. Michael, engulfed in flames, stumbles out of the room before finally falling dead. Michael Myers does not appear in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. This installment follows the story of Dr. Shelley as he tries to solve the mysterious murder of a patient in his hospital. He, along with the patient's daughter Ellie, travels to the small town of Santa Mira, California. The pair discover that Silver Shamrock Novelties, a company run by Conal Cochran, is attempting to use the mystic powers of the Stonehenge rocks to resurrect the ancient aspects of the Celtic festival, Samhain, which Cochran connects to witchcraft. Cochran is using his Silver Shamrock Halloween masks to achieve his goal, which will be achieved when all the children wearing his masks watch the Silver Shamrock commercial airing Halloween night. Shelley contacts the television stations and convinces all but one of the station managers to remove the commercial. The film ends with Shelley screaming for the final station to turn off the commercial. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, as the title suggests, features the return of Michael Myers to the film series. It is revealed that Michael survived the fire in Halloween 2, but has been comatose since that night. While being transferred back to Smith's Grove, Michael awakens upon hearing that Laurie Strode, who died in a car accident, has a daughter, Jamie Lloyd. Michael escapes and makes his way to Haddonfield in search of his niece Jamie. Fellow survivor Dr. Loomis goes to Haddonfield after learning that Michael has escaped transfer. Eventually, the police track Michael down and shoot him several times before he falls down a mine shaft. Picking up directly where the previous film ends, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers has Michael surviving the gunshots and the fall down the mine. He stumbles upon a hermit who bandages him up. 1 year later, and showing signs of a metaphysical connection to Jamie, Michael tracks Jamie to a local child mental health clinic. Using Jamie as bait, Loomis manages to capture Michael, The film ends with Michael being taken into police custody, only to be broken out of jail by a mysterious stranger, all dressed in black. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers picks up the story approximately 6 years after the events of The Revenge of Michael Myers. The mysterious stranger who broke Michael out of jail kidnaps Jamie Lloyd in an effort to obtain her child. Jamie escapes with her newborn son, with Michael in pursuit. Michael kills Jamie and continues searching for her baby. The infant is found by Tommy Doyle, the young boy who was babysat by Laurie Strode in the first film, who brings it home for safety. It is revealed that Michael is driven by the Curse of Thorn, which forces a person to kill their entire family in order to save all of civilization. The mysterious stranger is revealed to be Dr. Loomis's colleague, Drive Win, who is part of a group of people who protect the chosen individual so that they may complete their task. With the help of Kara Strode, Laurie's adoptive cousin, Tommy keeps the infant from Michael, who slaughters Win and his followers. Michael is finally subdued by Tommy, who injects him with large quantities of tranquilizers inside the Smith's Grove Sanitarium. The film ends with Loomis walking back into the sanitarium to find Michael. The events that transpire between the 4th to 6th films are effectively ignored in 1998's Halloween H20, 20 years later. This film opens 20 years after the events of the second film. Laurie Strode has faked her own death so that she could go into hiding from her brother Michael. Now working as the headmistress of a private school under the name Kerry Tate, Laurie continues to live in fear of her brother's return. Her own son, John, attends school where she teaches. Laurie's fear becomes reality when Michael shows up at the school and begins killing John's friends, and eventually he and Laurie come face to face. Laurie manages to get John and his girlfriend to safety, but decides to return to the school to face Michael once and for all. Laurie succeeds in stopping Michael, but not satisfied until she knows that he is truly dead. Laurie steals his body and decapitates Michael, finally killing him. Halloween, Resurrection picks up 3 years after H20 and reveals that Michael swapped clothes with a paramedic, crushing the paramedic's larynx so that he could not talk, and that was whom Laurie killed. Unable to deal with having killed an innocent man and the fact that Michael was still out there, Laurie is committed to a mental institution. Michael shows up at the institution, but Laurie captures him. Her fear of making the same mistake twice gets the better of her, and when she attempts to remove Michael's mask, he surprises and kills her. Michael travels back to his family home in Haddonfield, but finds a group of college students filming an internet reality show. Michael proceeds to kill everyone, until he is finally electrocuted by the only surviving student, Sarah Moyer, and the show's creator Freddie Harris. A remake of the original Halloween was released in 2007. This film focuses on the events that led Michael Myers to kill his family. It also identifies Laurie as Michael's sister early on, which was something not done in the original 1978 film. On Halloween, Michael murders a school bully, his older sister and her boyfriend, as well as his mother's boyfriend. Committed to Smith's Grove Sanitarium, Michael closes himself off from everyone. 15 years later, Michael escapes and heads to Haddonfield to find his younger sister, with his psychiatrist Dr. Loomis in pursuit. Michael finds his sister living with the Strode family and going by the name Laurie. After killing nearly all of her friends and family, Michael then kidnaps Laurie and attempts to explain to her that he is her brother through the use of a picture that he has kept of himself and her as an infant. Unable to understand, Laurie fights back. Eventually, Laurie uses Loomis' gun to shoot Michael in the head. In 2009, a sequel to the remake, titled Halloween 2, picks up right where the latter leaves off, and then jumps ahead 1 year. Here, Michael is presumed dead, but resurfaces after a vision of his deceased mother Deborah informs him that he must track Laurie down so that they can come home together. In the film, Michael and Laurie have a mental link, with the two sharing visions of their mother. Development. After viewing John Carpenter's film Assault on Precinct 13 at the Milan Film Festival, independent film producer Erwin Yablans and financier Mustafa Akkad sought out Carpenter to direct for them a film about a psychotic killer stalking babysitters. Carpenter and Deborah Hill began drafting a story titled The Babysitter Murders. but the title was changed at Yablin's request, suggesting the setting be changed to Halloween Night and naming it Halloween instead. Mustafa Akkad fronted the $300,000 for the film's budget, even though he was worried about the tight schedule, low budget, and Carpenter's limited experience as a filmmaker. He finally decided to finance the film after Carpenter relayed the entire film to Akkad, in a suspenseful way, almost frame for frame, and opted not to take any fees for directing the film. The low budget forced wardrobe and props to be crafted from items on hand or that could be purchased inexpensively. This included the trademark mask worn by Michael Myers throughout the film. Production designer, art director, location scout and co-editor Tommy Lee Wallace created Michael's mask from a William Shatner Halloween mask, purchased for $1.98. The limited budget also dictated the filming location and time schedule. Halloween was filmed in 21 days in the spring of 1978, primarily in South Pasadena, California. An abandoned house owned by a church stood in as the Myers house. 2 homes on Orange Grove Avenue in Hollywood were used for the film's climax. Following the success of Halloween, Yablans and Akkad began working on Halloween 2. There was initial discussion about filming Halloween 2 in 3D, but the idea never came to fruition. After Halloween 2 was released, Carpenter and Hill were approached about creating a third Halloween film, but they were reluctant to pledge commitment. The pair agreed to participate in the new project only if it was not a direct sequel to Halloween 2, which meant no Michael Myers. Most of the filming for Halloween 3 took place on location in the small coastal town of Laletta in Humboldt County, California. Familiar Foods, a milk bottling plant in Laletta, served as the Silver Shamrock Novelties factory, but all special effects involving fire, smoke, and explosions were filmed at Post Studios. After Halloween 3 was released, Michael Myers was brought back into the franchise with 1988's The Return of Michael Myers, where he has stayed for the remainder of the series. 4 more sequels would follow, between 1988 and 2002, before the series would take a break for 5 years. On June 4, 2006, Dimension Films announced that Rob Zombie, director of House of 1000 Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, would be creating the next installment in the Halloween franchise. Bob Weinstein approached Rob Zombie about making the film, and Zombie, who was a fan of the original Halloween and friend of John Carpenter, jumped at the chance to make a Halloween film for Dimension Films. Before Dimension went public with the news, Zombie felt obligated to inform John Carpenter, out of respect, of the plans to remake his film. Carpenter's request was for Zombie to make it his own film. Zombie's film would combine the elements of prequel and remake with the original concept, with considerable original content in the new film. Zombie also wanted to reinvent the character, as he felt Michael, along with Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Pinhead, had become too familiar to audiences, and as a result, less scary. Zombie delved deeper into Michael Myers' mythology. Michael's mask was even given its own story to provide an explanation as to why he wears it. Instead of having the character simply steal a random mask from a hardware store, as in the original film, Zombie wanted to bring Michael closer to what a psychopath really is, and wanted the mask to be a way for Michael to hide. In 2008, a sequel to the 2007 remake was announced, with French filmmakers Julien Maury and Alexandre Bustillo in negotiations to direct. Instead, Zombie was re-signed to write and direct the sequel, with the film taking place directly after the end of his remake. In an interview, Zombie expressed how the exhaustion of creating the first Halloween made him not want to come back for a sequel, but after a year of cooling down he was more open to the idea. The writer/director explains that with the sequel, he was no longer bound by a sense of needing to retain any John Carpenter-ness, as he could now do whatever he wants to do. Instead of focusing on Michael, Zombie chose to look more at the psychological consequences on Laurie after the events of the remake. As Zombie explains, after Michael murdered her friends and family, Laurie became a wreck who continually sinks lower as the film moves forward. On February 9, 2017, John Carpenter announced that a new Halloween film was going to be written by David Gordon Green and Danny McBride and will be directed by Green. The film will be a direct sequel to the original Halloween and will ignore all of the franchise's previous sequels. In September 2017, Jamie Lee Curtis confirmed that she would reprise her role as Laurie Strode. In October 2017, Judy Greer entered negotiations to play Laurie's daughter Karen Strode. In December 2017, it was announced Andy Matischak had signed on to play Karen Strode's daughter and Laurie's granddaughter. The film will be distributed by Universal Pictures, their first involvement in the franchise since distributing 1982's Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. On October 17, 2017, Carpenter announced that he would be returning to score the upcoming film, saying, "I'll be consulting with the director to see what he feels. I could create a new score, we could update the old score and amplify it, or we could combine those two things. I'll have to see the movie to see what it requires." On December 20, 2017, it was announced that Nick Castle would be reprising his role as Michael Myers. Filming began on January 13, 2018, concluding on February 19, 2018. The film would be released on October 19, 2018. Music. John Carpenter composed the music to the first 3 films. For Halloween, Carpenter chose to use a piano melody played in a 5/4 time rhythm instead of a symphonic soundtrack. Critic James Berardinelli calls the score relatively simple and unsophisticated, but admits that Halloween's music is one of its strongest assets. Carpenter stated in an interview, "I can play just about any keyboard, but I can't read or write a note." In the end credits, Carpenter bills himself as the Bowling Green Orchestra for performing the film's score. But he did receive assistance from composer Dan Wyman, a music professor at San Jose State University. The score for Halloween 2 is a variation of John Carpenter's compositions from the first film, particularly the main theme's familiar piano melody played. The score was performed on a synthesizer organ rather than the piano used for Halloween. One reviewer for the BBC described the revised score as having a more gothic feel. The reviewer asserted that it doesn't sound quite as good as the original piece, but it still remains a classic piece of music. Music remained an important element in establishing the atmosphere of Halloween 3. Just as in Halloween and Halloween 2, there was no symphonic score. Much of the music was composed to solicit false startles from the audience. The soundtrack was composed by John Carpenter and Alan Howarth, who had also worked on the score for Halloween 2. The score of Halloween 3 differed greatly from the familiar main theme of the original and its first sequel. Carpenter replaced the familiar piano melody with a slower, electronic theme played on a synthesizer with beeping tonalities. Howarth explains how he and Carpenter composed the music for the third film. The music style of John Carpenter and myself has further evolved in this film's soundtrack by working exclusively with synthesizers to produce our music. This has led to a certain procedural routine. The film is first transferred to a time-coded videotape and synchronized to a 24-track master audio recorder. Then while watching the film we compose the music to these visual images. The entire process goes quite rapidly and has instant gratification, allowing us to evaluate the score in sync to the picture. This is quite an invaluable asset. Following Carpenter's departure from the series, Howarth would stay on board as the sole composer for the next 2 sequels, and also acted as the lead composer on Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, with Paul Rabjohns providing additional music when the initial edit of the film was substantially refilmed. While Halloween H20 credits John Ottman as its sole composer, in reality most of the soundtrack was provided by Scream composer Marco Beltrami, using a mixture of music from that film and a few original cues written by Beltrami, after the producers disliked Ottman's score. Danny Lux provided the soundtrack for Halloween Resurrection, while Tyler Bates composed the soundtracks for both the 2007 Halloween reboot and its 2009 sequel. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?